Don't let the verbal reasoning assessments or verbal reasoning test stop you on your online application for the Big Four, Fortune 500, or any big company. Today, I'm sharing 3 tips with a real example of how you can nail it. Hi everyone, Jade from Career Journey Professional, helping you to find and land in the ideal job that's suitable to you. We're talking about verbal reasoning assessment today, or you can call it verbal test. It's normally used in assessment center or assessment day when you are applying for Big Four banks, Big Four accounting firms, Fortune 500 investment banks, management consultant. So most of the big banks, most of the big companies, you do need to pass that to be able to go to the next step. It's also very popular on online application, online e-recruitment nowadays as well. So when I was just graduated from university, a good last decade ago, I was doing a lot of this test. So just for your information, if you do want to find out more in practice, one of the biggest company that till today still provide this to the companies is called SHL. It's a British company who designed this test, who collect all the data and further develop other tests. S for Sierra, H for Henry, L for Lima, SHL. Search it up on their website. There are so many different kinds of tests. You know, the psychologist test, the numerical test, abstract reasoning test, so forth and so on. The one we're talking about today is verbal reasoning, and I will give you some examples to further explain how do I mean by that. Before I get started, the actual general tips or to get started to pass stage 1 and 2, so there are different difficult levels of the test. The beginner level should be easy as long as you are able to pass, IELTS test, the English IELTS test, PTE or TOEFL test. Because a lot of my audience are using English as second language, as long as you have no problem passing those English tests, which means you have no problem reading and understanding and working with English in a corporate manner, in a business manner, you should be fine. So I'm not talking about those very general language tips, but today I'm sharing something a little bit more advanced, not very advanced, probably more for the medium level, because the test or some of the questions that I recently got asked, that we can see from the back end that people get confusion. It's for the medium manager level test. So I'll give you one of the example. Let's get started by sharing example 1. Now, I would suggest you to pause the video, have a read, go through it, make your choice, and then we'll come back to this. Actually, this is not the one that I want to share. It's actually example 1. Yeah, that's it. So have a read and make your choice. So I can tell you that B, C, D are all relatively chosen a lot more by people. Well, we can basically rule out A because it's just not that relevant to the whole paragraph. You can see from the top, this is from general manager to sales and marketing manager, and it's talking about research and development division and marketing cooperation in the context of there are 2 types of innovation that requires innovation of product development for a company, for an organization, so that they can stay competitive, which is the general in a nutshell what's the whole paragraph talking about. Let's start with tip number 1. And then when I go through the tips, I'll tell you eventually which one is the correct one. Now, comment down below which one did you choose for example 1. Okay, so the first tip, usually it's under a timed condition. So for this type of question, you have only 1 minute and 30 seconds, which is 90 seconds under a timed pressure for you to quickly go through it and choose the right choice, normally just one choice. So what I would do first is really, instead of reading the paragraph, I would read the question very carefully. Why is a balanced portfolio of technology push and demand pull innovations recommended? So the question is asking about the 2 innovations, not the R&D, not the marketing, the vision, but the 2 innovations balance. So seeing what focus is on from the question. And then I'll go back to the first tip number 1, always read very carefully the first sentence and the last sentence, or if you are given a few paragraphs, read the first sentence, because that should be the summary or the key points of what the whole paragraph is about. So in this case, it's talking about the company want to stay competitive, and it's talking about research and development and marketing must work in even more complementary ways to enable us to maintain our competitive position. So this is relevant to B. Marketing and R&D must work together in a complementary manner instead of each separately. So now if you read very carefully, the original paragraph says even more complementary ways, meaning that it was already complementary, but now it needs to be even more. Whereas the B says must work together in a complementary way. So it's slightly different. It's not completely wrong, but it's slightly different. So I put the question mark up there. And when we read the last sentence, we would therefore also appreciate your cooperation in achieving a balanced portfolio with both types of product development. Now, this comes to my point number 2. Look at the keywords from the questions. So the keywords from the question, or the keywords from the answers, is what we just said, a balanced portfolio. So here it says the balanced portfolio, right? And it says product development. So in C, it mentioned product development. So yeah, it's already stressing 2 of the key phrases, and also seeing where the key phrases are. When you're running out of time, that's where you can directly just go to that sentence in the original paragraph without reading the whole thing. Sometimes that will suffice for you to be able to derive your answer. So C says organization can thus offset the disadvantage of one sort of product development by the advantage of the other. That is talking about advantage and disadvantage. So point number 2 is keywords. Where does it say advantage and disadvantage, which is the end of line 3 from the bottom, or line 4 from the bottom. Both types of innovation has advantage and disadvantage. And then the next sentence talks about promise, what does it mean? So C sounds correct. It's not. So that's one of our options here. And that's my point number 2. Look at the keywords. And point number 3, it's look at words that sounds very definite. Words like must, should, have to. So B has that. Must. So do we have must in the original paragraph? Yes, but like I explained, it was slightly different. Whereas the original one says more complementary ways, meaning they were already working together. Whereas B more sound like they were not working together. Now they have to work together. So after ruling out, and D has strengthened its competition by combining 2 types of innovation. It's not talking about R&D and marketing. It didn't mention that. So now I can tell you. So based on everything I said, what's the key phrases, key meaning from the beginning sentence and the closing sentence, which is asking the R&D division and marketing division to work in a better way to adapt both of the innovations, right? So D didn't mention R&D and marketing. Whereas B is slightly different. C sounds like all right. So there's no absolutely wrong. So that's why the correct answer is actually C. Now, if you're having difficulty with that, reading this, it doesn't mean your English is not good. It usually doesn't mean that you don't understand what the paragraph is talking about. But this is where I would suggest really just stick to what's spoken on the paper. Don't read between the lines. Don't come up with a conclusion based on your own understanding, even though it can be really apparent, even though it can be really reasonable like B, but really just stick to what I said above, which one has most keywords, which one is closest to the beginning and the end sentence of a paragraph, and which one it's not completely against the statement or irrelevant to the statement. All right, so that's one of the example. I'll share one more example for you. Again, have fun. This one, comment down below which one do you think is the correct answer. So this one again, when you read the beginner sentence, it's about flexible work schedules, and the last sentence, use the system. In this case, the last sentence is not the most useful. The question is certainly correct, absolutely correct. No doubt, no vague things. So which is why, well, I can tell you that a lot of people are hesitating between B and D. So let's have a look at D. A working day comprises 8 hours for everyone. So my rule number 2 is go to the keywords. So where is 8 hours? It's here, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines down. What's the original sentence? The time at which employee may go home is determined by their choice of start time. Bear in mind that a workday comprises 8 hours, right? So it says comprises 8 hours, but not everyone. Although it could be true, but in this context itself, it never said for everyone. So that could be a question mark for me. And so why the other ones are not correct? A grade 3 employee has more competence than a grade 1 employee. Again, that's not indicated, even though they have more breaks, or they can have more flexibility, or some can have more authority than the others. That was never stated. It could be indicated. That's again what I mean that I don't read between or beyond the phrases. So C could be, that was never said. D was never said. Everyone must register the number of working hours per day. Well, obviously the last sentence, everyone except grade 3, it's incorrect. So the actual answer is B. All right, so 3 tips that I shared today. I hope it can be helpful. Beginning and end sentences, key phrases to find the relevant, key words to find the relevant sentences, and pay attention to words like must, should, have to. If it's that absolute, is really like that absolute in original phrases. If it's not, don't choose it. Again, do practice it before you get started. And if you're not sure, or it's normally, don't jump into criticizing yourself. Your English is not good, or you have a problem with this. It's really about how you read things. Your pattern or your way of thinking and interpret things can be different from what they really wanted to test. And it's about finding what the difference between your way and their way. And that's what I find as in coaching clients, helping them to find the right way. All right, cool. Hope this is helpful. Leave a like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.